Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I'll be going over a critical issue that is degrading our ability to enjoy Star Trek Online, therefore threatening the future of a game that we all enjoy. That issue being the poor server performance, which has begun to impact more and more players over the past couple of years. In this video, I'll be going over the ways that we see server performance impact gameplay, some factors that may be worsening the situation, and the impact that this is having on players. As always, chapters to each section are listed below. Now, before I get too far into things, it is important to note that some issues people encounter are legitimately due to issues with their device or internet connection. And keep in mind that even if you have a good internet connection, the network route between you and the server can still have issues. But what I'm covering here today are issues that frequently occur, or those that impact all players in an instance when they do occur, which clearly points towards a server-side issue. There may be other issues you experience, so feel free to leave them in a comment below if I don't cover them. The first issue here is one that many of you have likely experienced, the misfire. A misfire is when you activate an ability, but it fails to activate and then goes on cooldown. These misfires can be extremely disruptive, especially if they occur for important abilities such as firing modes, console clickies, or survivability buffs. Now I do want to note for this one that it is possible that not all instances of a misfire occurring are due to server or networking issues. For instance, we have observed some misfire issues on PC are caused by keybinds that people have set up that have things like redistribute shields on them, or other abilities with a longer activation time, especially if those are set on the keybind to occur before an ability like a firing mode. But there are still many instances where these misfires are happening to all players on the map at the same time, and in that case, it's clearly not an issue on the user side. This has been ongoing for many years in multiplayer content, but as time goes on, it has become more common in solo content like story missions or patrols. On my side, I've also observed this even when doing solo task force operations. Those of you that are keeping a constant ability rotation will typically have seen this at some point when playing. Many of you will probably have seen this on a fairly regular basis. Now, shifting over to an issue that is much more visible when it occurs, rubberbanding. Rubberbanding in STO is when you move in one direction and then get jolted back to where you were moments ago. This is something that I know some of us experience on some social maps like ESD. Over on PlayStation, I experienced it on one of my first trips over to ESD over there. In combat, this can be quite frustrating, especially in instances where this is accompanied by a momentary freeze. This sort of lag can also be seen impacting some timers, in which case you'll see the timer jump back a few seconds. Again, it is possible for these sorts of issues to occur due to issues with your connection, but as you're about to see in here, there are instances where this is occurring to everyone on the map at the exact same time.
Oh, evasive misfire again.
Scanning the nanite transformer. Done. Additional data is available.
What the? Oh my god.
I'm not. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Don't hit cooldowns, don't hit us, don't.
Don't hit
don't.
cooldowns.
Ship is under attack.
Scanning the nanite transformer.
What's happening?
Data is available.
Don't hit.
Oh,
my
okay.
god.
I'm like, why am I not moving?
Now, taking it up one more notch, the most egregious of these server issues occurs when it slows down the map entirely, or causes functionality on the map to break. I find the slowdown most visible in some runs of the Battle of Corfez TFO during the Bentham phase, in which affected runs will see the timer progress much slower than real time. This has a real impact by delaying the next wave of Benthans spawning into the map. This delayed spawn can also result in some entities not spawning in, as you're about to see with the next clip.
Oh, herky jerky. 6-6.
Yeah.
Nanite probes can repair the
Or,
transformer.
Oh my
Jesus
God.
Christ. Can I go forward, please? I literally can't move. And there's no, look at this, there's no sphere, there's no cube.
Stuttering.
The
There's
lag
still
is
no
so
cube.
bad.
The spheres just took, I'd say, close to 15 seconds to come in on my side.
Hey, I just saw them warp in on Spencer's side.
So what you just saw there is the spheres on the side and the cube in the center taking over 15 seconds to spawn in after they should have, along with many of the spheres that should have spawned in through the gateway failing to show up at all. When this sort of experience occurs, as you can imagine, it can be very frustrating. So what are the likely causes? Well, when it comes to performance issues in task force operations, thanks to player testing done during the bug launch of Organic Nebula in 2024, we know that multiple instances of a TFO are sharing the same pool of resources on the server. If you'd like to learn more about that specific test, Bret has a great video covering it, which I'll have linked down below. What that test shows is that other players doing things in another TFO instance can impact the performance of your instance. In other words, say you're playing Corfez. If there is another instance with another team playing that TFO, then you're impacting their performance and they are impacting yours. Now, tack on the power creep we have gone in the past couple of years, which leads to more computing power needed to handle each player, and you can quickly see how over time that could result in the continued degradation of server performance if more resources are not being allocated, or the number of instances allowed in that pool are not reduced. If I recall, there were some lag issues back around 2015 or 16 related to the number of calculations happening per player. Given the amount of power creep in the 2020s, it would not surprise me at all if there were also some similar issues present here. And to sum this portion up, as a player, I'm not aware of exactly how things are set up on the server, but the issue seems to boil down to the allocated resources simply not being enough for the current user compute requirements. That is an issue that can be addressed from multiple fronts, however. They could allocate more resources, they could reduce the number of instances allowed in each process, and while not simple or easy, they could also investigate ways to reduce the compute requirements. And lastly, let's go over the impact that this has for players. To put it simply, those encountering these issues find it extremely demotivating. Those impacted have little to no motivation about new additions because they know they're not going to be able to effectively use them in the content they want to play. Just an example here, but imagine you just dropped $150 on the latest lockbox ship, and then you want to go in and try it out in some elite content, and as soon as you go in there, the console from it misfires. You could see how that could be a bit demotivating. These issues having not been addressed for years has contributed to several in the creator and or DPS scenes stepping away from the game. For instance, I know on the creator side that these issues are a significant factor as to why you're not seeing as much content from folks like MC Stu or Nick NB. Now, I know some of you will say that I'm being overdramatic or exaggerating these issues, but these are issues I have experienced now for many years, and I have witnessed firsthand how they have pushed some groups and people away from the game. That simply isn't healthy for the longevity of the game. And just because you have not experienced or noticed an issue yet yourself, does not mean that issue does not exist. But with some of you leaving comments about experiencing these issues even in single-player content, like story missions or patrols, that's a huge sign that action on these issues needs to happen sooner rather than later. Ignoring these issues will just continue to degrade the in-game experience, thus deterring people from engaging more in that part of the game. And while I was working on this video, I put up a poll which 653 of you have so far responded to, asking how often you experience server issues. So far, 10% of you said never, 50% of you said a few times per week, 21% said a few times per day, and 19% said you constantly experience server issues. And some of you in the comments did bring up some additional points to factor in, such as the server performance being worse during peak usage hours, such as evening or morning hours where there's a spike of activity from people logging in to do dailies. Now I know that there's going to be some other lag issues that some of you experienced that I did not cover here, so feel free to drop them in the comments below. And if you have the ability to record any of these server issues when they happen to you, if you can upload them to YouTube and put them in a bug report, perhaps we can get a bit more traction on this issue. But that is it for today. Thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.